All right, let's talk about them Dallas Cowboys.
They're in camp.
They're camping, y'all. I just have to ask an honest question to all Cowboys fans. Is this the least excited you've ever been for a Cowboys season?
I think it is. I mean, attendance apparently is a little down out there in Oxnard. It's not really moving the needle. It's not really happening this year. I think there's a lot of attention elsewhere.
Yeah, I just think there's so many future concerns that we're so worried about the present, even though none of this stuff really affects the season.
Yeah.
You know, we don't physically see CD in camp, but he will play eventually, and he will get a deal eventually. Now, as far as the least excited I've ever been, I can name 2 other seasons in my adult life where I've been least excited. 04, the Vinny Testaverde, the Big 3, Testaverde, Eddie George, and Keyshawn Johnson.
That was a baseball card in my spokes team. Like, seriously, that was a bunch of spares.
Now, as bad as that year was it as bad as 2002 when we went into the season with Ryan Leaf, Clint Sterner, and Quincy Carter? And Dave Campo as coach? And Emmitt Smith that you knew was no longer Emmitt Smith? And we had Roy Williams when I was the person yelling off the mountaintop, Ed Reed's better!
Yeah. I do remember being a Clint Sterner fan.
Yeah.
And I thought, with Clint Sterner, they're going to the passing threat's so great, Emmitt's going to have tons of room in the box.
Well, you know, that offense would have been
This is
great.
Back when I was a full-on, full-fledged diehard,
yeah,
right?
2002, that was one of the 3 wasted years of Joey Galloway's career. We took away a guy who lives off speed. We took away 3 prime years from him. Then he showed us when he went to Tampa Bay that was on us.
We couldn't even get the ball to him when he was with us.
Yeah, so 2002, I'll say, is the worst because I was in Ohio. I was going to Bowling Green. And I was like, why are they still on national TV? It's like, I don't want to watch my team get whipped like this. I thought since I'm like a 20-hour drive away that I wouldn't have to see this brutal beating of my team on a week-to-week basis. How tall is Dave Campo? Is he 5'11"? Because that was his record every year he coached. 5'11", 5'11".
Yeah. They did have like a couple splash victories. I remember those years. I mean, we're talking about the level of excitement for this season and during this camp. And I think we can all agree it's down. Attendance is down. They're charging for parking now out there in Oxnard, which is a new thing. Oh, and they're not even telling the media what the attendance is.
We actually have somebody in the house who's from Oxnard who I was introduced to earlier.
Oxnard, Ventura.
Whatever. Yeah. I don't know that area. I'm this Dallas Bias Club.
We have a listener in L.A. now, so we got to keep it correct.
Hey, shout out to the listener in L.A. Talking about my cousin Sam?
Sam, and maybe a few more.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
We're working on it.
Dude, actually, this would be a good episode with Sam if we were back in the studio because it would be kind of fun to hear coverage in LA.
We'll get to Sam before football season starts. Definitely, he's part of the family.
Cousin Sam, yeah. Well, there's also defensive end Sam. Yeah. Sam Williams. He's been a Cowboy for 3 years.
This was supposed to be his breakout season.
This is his season, right?
And unfortunately, I can relate to this so much. And the hardest thing about playing football is how hard you train and bust your ass.
Yeah.
You know, and then
the day you don't even have a helmet on.
It can all be taken away like that. And it happened to me like 3 years in a row. So when people are like, oh, how hard was it for you to stop playing football? It was easy. Very easy.
Yeah.
Like, because whenever you work out every goddamn day to get to this weight level, bench this, squat this, run this, and then before the season starts, ACL, MCL, PCL. But it's tough, and you just feel for people whenever this type of thing happens. Now, as far as the Cowboys go this year, we do have a lot of young, unproven guys on the roster. Now, is there anybody that you expect to step up to do anything as far as replacing Sam Williams internally?
Our show right after the draft, I mean, I wasn't super excited if you go back and watch that one. You know, I kind of remember there was a little dead air there, but we did cover Nealon out of Western Michigan, our second-round pick.
Yeah.
And from what I'm reading, like, the guy has stepped up. Apparently, he's got NFL strength. He's got NFL size. He's not the quickest, but he's bright. He's kind of one of these that bring his lunch pail kind of dude.
First man in, last one out.
Yeah. So I think that they fully expected him to be a big contributor on special teams and be able to rotate in and under certain packages. But, now he's a second-round pick.
So his draft positioning is going to dictate his playing time.
He's probably going to have to play. I mean,
now the way I've looked at it is, take a different approach to it. I believe that since the Cowboys drafted Chauncey Golston, they've been playing him a lot inside. I think it's time to kick him out to defensive end. I think he can help in the run game at defensive end, and since you've been playing him in the trenches, there's nothing that an interior defensive lineman would love to do more than to be free.
Yeah.
And there's freedom on that.
His hand off the ground.
You know, it's like not necessarily like one hand off the ground, but just to know that he can shoot a gap instead of having to occupy two guys. And I think that it's time, and I feel like he has the skill set to be that guy, so let him do it. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for him to do that, especially with Micah Parsons being an undersized defensive end. You're gonna use him in a different way this season.
Yeah, with Zimmer taking over the Cowboys,
so you're gonna see him stand.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the number one thing he's gonna be like is like, why is his hand on the ground so much?
I feel like there's with Zimmer 4-3-D, and he's acquired, or he is taking over a defense that is speed. A lot of the guys are left over. Wins a couple of years he was here. I feel like it'll be maybe an opportunity where Zimmer is going to utilize the traditional 4-3, but also have a little bit of a speed package here and there.
Yeah, and
kind of what you're talking about is pushing Golston out.
Tank Lawrence is getting a little bit up there in age.
I just read today that Tank Lawrence is working on some packages where he's playing inside.
And to me, and that's my thing, is this is what I'm trying to get ahead of.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get ahead of, it's like, who should be playing inside, who should be playing outside. I think Tank, he's getting older. Let him play on the outside a little bit more. Let him get his sacks up. It's almost like we don't want to play him on third down, because if he gets sacks, then we have to pay him.
Well, he had lots of sacks last year.
Yeah, well, he had lots of pressures, and he graded real highly, but as far as actually getting to
as a DN, he's a good stop.
But I just feel like, as far as this roster is built right now, I think that a guy like Fioka, he's a guy who's probably going to be on the cutting block this offseason, this preseason, just because we drafted him in the 4th round. But I think that I've seen Tyus Wheat pop more than I've seen him pop. And this is a guy who was in the 4th round versus an undrafted guy. Yeah. Tyus Wheat being a Southeastern Conference guy, he's used to this level of competition versus a guy who's making the transition from San Jose State to the NFL. And even if you look at his athletic testing for Fioka, like, he wasn't the most explosive guy. And I just think that with his wingspan, with his height, like, if there's any guy that needs to be moved inside, it needs to be him, because I feel like these other guys can bring more off the edge. Okay. And even though he was more of a finesse guy, I think that he has the bulk. Like, why take that away from Tank when you know that Tank can get to the quarterback? Like, why not give, like, Chauncey Golston an opportunity to get to the quarterback with his length? Because as far as all of our pass rushers go, he has the longest arms. And don't they say that's the best way to use a swim move? Let my guy get out there and do some swimming, some ripping, some tearing, the ripping and the tearing. Really, outside of Fioka playing inside at defensive end, I see him being a camp casualty where the Turk is coming to his door.
Really?
Absolutely. I think that Tyus Wheat has done more on the edge than he's capable of doing. And I just feel like...
So I kind of wanted to go sort of stay on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like, we do have some contracts. They're still up in the air on the offensive side of the ball. I think for tonight, let's delve a little bit deeper. What you're trying to say is that Zimmer's 4-3, if he could utilize some of the younger talent that we didn't even bother to use because they weren't fast enough, they weren't strong enough to play in Dan Quinn's system, but with Zimmer's system, you're saying that they're actually going to be utilized, not just for special teams, but we're full-on packages. Like, for instance, our goal line D was pretty good, like last year. I wouldn't say it's like
I would say that it was dependent on Jonathan Hankins.
So don't you see our defense hanging on to quite a bit of these guys to have these packages where they're not getting rotated in on drives as much as they were last season, but they're saving them for certain field position packages?
Well, I think the biggest difference between this team and last year's team is the absence of Jonathan Hankins. We'd never necessarily replaced him with a true nose, two-gap.
Mozzie was supposed to be that guy, but it didn't happen.
And Mozzie's slowly bulking up.
Yeah.
And, but until he gets back to 330, it's like there's a difference between a 315-pound defensive tackle is the bare minimum of what you're looking at to be a guy to take on two blockers. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
To be a guy who you want to be a two-gap guy who has to control two gaps. But I feel like he's still another 10, 15 pounds away from even being that guy. and we didn't address it with just a body in the offseason.
Yeah.
So a guy like Justin Rogers, who we drafted late, is gonna
huge.
Gonna be a guaranteed roster lock just because of what he can do, and we have nobody else on this team that can do it. It's another Quentin Bohannon type of situation.
Yeah, that particular draft pick, I think he was our 6th rounder, right?
7th round.
7th round, yeah.
Late.
I mean, very, very late. Because he does one thing.
Yeah, he's big. He's a space eater.
What I'm trying to say is, it's like I'm preparing myself for our new look defense.
Yes.
We've been pretty happy with our defense the last 3 seasons, all right? We were pretty happy with Dan Quinn. A lot of people out there that were Cowboy fans wanted Dan Quinn as the head coach because he was so successful on the defensive side of the ball. I think that we have to prepare ourselves for a more traditional defense, and we did. We lost some key players, and we're going to be playing with a lot of youth, and we have to lean into Zimmer's philosophy of defense, not so much scheme.
As far if this is Zimmer's defense, and if he's going to do what I think Zimmer will do, then the defense is incomplete. As far as he's still waiting for camp cuts.
That was the next question.
He's waiting for camp cuts to see who we can acquire to get more bulk on this line and get more skill on this line.
Yeah.
What do you think? I know we were talking right now about guys that were already on the roster. How do you feel about the 2 new guys, quote unquote new guys, new to us guys? Shaka Tony and I know his last name's Muhammad.
Al-Quadin Muhammad from the University of Miami.
Yeah.
I know they actually worked out Carl Lawson as well. But to me, I just felt like as far as the round of veterans they brought in, I thought that Shaka Tony was the main guy they needed to sign. Former teammate of Micah Parsons at Penn State. He only has 1.5 sacks because he got suspended for gambling. So he missed all last year. And the Washington Football Club, this is one of their draft picks, so we got to get them back. You took 2 of our defensive ends, we're going to take 1 from you. All right, and the athleticism that Shaka Tony possesses is impressive. He's a sub 4.6 edge rusher with a shuttle time under 1.6, and he also has a broad jump over 10 feet. There was a guy that we did work out. It was a guy that I was kind of hoping would make the team. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Justin Hollins, but he was the opposite defensive end of Myles Garrett at Martin High School.
Today at Highway Bar.
Well, I live in a Martin district, begrudgingly, but I had to get a house, and that's my house. But that's the guy who I wanted. But I just feel like we need to deplete the Commanders because they've depleted us.
Yeah. Patrick and I kind of joked a little bit about this team is 1 injury away, 2 injuries away. There's no depth. It's going to be a tough season, but it is exciting.